Morning Shot.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Shot. I'm Lynlee. From an overhaul of the classification system for mature and non-mature estates to a new $7 billion modular package aimed at supporting workers born in 1973 or earlier, those were some of the key measures Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong announced in his National Day rally speech on Sunday. Also in the works, PM Lee says the government is studying how to enhance the assurance package as part of efforts to cushion the GST hike. Ahead of details that will be shared by the respective agencies in the months ahead, we are so privileged today to be joined by Saktiandi Supaat, MP for Bishan, Toa-Payoh GRC. And good morning, Saktiandi.
Morning.
And also we have with us Tim Ling, MP for MacPherson SMC. Welcome to the show, Ling.
Thank you. Good morning.
Ling, as PM Lee said, cost of living is on everyone's minds. We understand that a significant proportion of your residents at MacPherson are the elderly. Now, what are the reactions and feedback to PM's latest announcements? I know you were at your sessions till very late last night.
Yeah, well, I mean, cost of living has always been top of mind for them, especially for the younger elderly per se, because they are pretty much sandwiched. For many of them, they still have very elderly parents whom they have to support and care for, as well as perhaps younger children who will still have to rely on them. So I think the announcement or the introduction of the modular package is a much needed welcome. Of course, details to follow, and they are very curious to know, what kind of or to what extent will they be benefiting from the package. So I think that's one. And taken into totality with other packages that had already been introduced, such as the assurance package, I think this would give them a bit of assurance that they will be well supported in terms of their retirement adequacy. I think the other point about infrastructure as well as the social part of active aging would also be a strong signal to say that the government is very interested in paying attention into how everyone can work together to provide our seniors, a more assuring and well-supported environment for them to age. I think at the end of the day, it's really about how can we help our seniors, look forward to every day, stay active, and be and lead an enriching life.
Speaking of that, how challenging do you think it will be for the implementation of such infrastructural enhancements for the older estates especially?
Yeah, well, like for example, MacPherson is a very mature estate. We are already past 50 years old in that sense. And so many of the infrastructure and amenities were built way back in the earlier days when the population was younger. And also over the years, these would have worn and torn, there would be wear and tear. And so I think if anything, there is a need to refresh some of these infrastructure and also to perhaps even redesign or implement things that are more elderly friendly, age friendly, like barrier-free access, more ramps, more covered walkways. So I think yesterday's announcements would be very welcome. But there will be some, building new ones as well as retrofitting can be costly. And
right.
So I think this is something that we'll be very interested to find out, what will be done for an estate like MacPherson, because we need it. And so we have been, of course, obviously, actively appealing for these enhancements. And we look forward to, more details in terms of, for example, whether there will be budget increases, whether there will be specific items that will be prioritized. And we will want to make full use of this as well.
Fingers crossed. Now, I want to talk about the modular package. So, Saktiandi, bringing you in here. Through the new modular package, those 50 years and older will be getting CPF bonuses to help them meet their retirement needs. You're a trained economist, so tell us, with inflation now in the picture, how would you rate this segment's retirement adequacy based on your interactions with residents as you walk the ground?
Yeah, so indeed, it's actually a very important issue, retirement adequacy. So when I meet my residents on the ground, particularly residents of various segments, for example, those who are 50 plus, who are single as well, or homemakers, so they have retirement adequacy concerns, especially if some of the changes that the CPF have made have started recently, so they don't have enough runway to actually accumulate some of the returns or benefits from those changes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So some of that issues, and besides that, I think those that are low income and have insufficient CPF sort of savings are also affected. So I think the announcement that PM made at the rally actually helped somewhat to mitigate some of those concerns. Although I think in the long run, I think more help could come in to actually help them even more, especially those with low CPF savings in the long run. So inflation is a major concern. So if every year inflation rises, the actual amount that they have accumulated in the past may not be sufficient. CPF Life Plan have a plan where you have escalating plans where you can actually defer have an escalating payments over time, increasing by about 2% to sort of fight inflation. But I think concerns about that actually will continue to increase, especially with cost of living rises.
Talking about sufficient, insufficient, how much really is needed for retirement in your opinion? And how would you compare our CPF system with other pension systems in other parts of the world?
So our pension system is a bit different. In fact, I think if you compare with some of the other pension systems, one of the differences would be the fact that we actually have a combination of both employer and employee contributions as well. We also have an income stream for life. So CPF Life, for example, people do not know, for some of them, that you actually get payments until you, for example, until the end of your life, literally end of your life. I think in the past it was not so. So actually we have also a very, very sort of seamless accumulation and decumulation sort of payment stream coming on stream as well, which is a bit different from other pension systems, which typically in other countries, like America, for example, it's actually private sector driven. So private sector deliberations might be different. Thirdly, it's actually fully funded, and it grows. It grows 100% fully funded for in terms of CPF as well, which is slightly different as well. Other countries may have it's actually tax sort of funded as well, so which is a bit different. Finally, in terms of sustainability, the payouts, and also do not rely on CPF contributions alone. There are other sort of payments. We have other sort of support that comes in as well. So it makes it a bit different. There's some similar sort of elements to it. And like I mentioned just now, it's a three-in-one system, which is different from other pension systems.
Okay. Ling, we know that support for families is close to your heart. And one of the key issues you've talked about in Parliament on multiple occasions, in line with what PM mentioned about tackling elderly loneliness and encouraging active aging. What are the gaps you're seeing, and what can be improved through government initiatives?
Well, I think we are observing increasing numbers of seniors living alone. They may have children, but they have already moved out, have their own families. Some maybe choose to be single or happen to be single, and so they are now on their own. And so we'll have more seniors who want to live independently within the community. And so with that, that means that the social scaffolding, the network of support, the type of programs will also have to, be adjusted or basically scaled up in that sense. And so so therefore, actually, I'm very heartened, and I think likewise for a lot of my senior residents, that this is something that will be stepped up in terms of efforts. Because loneliness, isolation has a great impact on their mental and physical health. I see it firsthand during the pandemic. Post-circuit breaker, when we visited residents, some elderly broke down and cried. And then when I visited another uncle, for example, used to be so sprightly, see me, would say, "Hi, Pei Ling." And then when I saw him again, he was on a wheelchair, very frail, couldn't even recognize us. And so it's heartbreaking. And I think these highlight the importance of social connection, keeping them active so that there is something that keeps them motivated every day. And so I think in this case, the programs are there. We need to increase in terms of the type of interest groups to align to their interests and needs. And that means the program variety. But also, I think what's really important is that we need more people to step forward to be part of that network of support. Neighbors, volunteers, because at the end of the day, we need that human touch. I think that's what makes a difference. And it's resource intensive in that you need people to be there, but it is also most rewarding and where the greatest impact is. So I foresee that this is something that we have to build up even more. And if we are talking about active aging, well, actually, like what PM had said, there are seniors who will also step forward to volunteer their time. And it keeps them very meaningfully engaged as well. So it's a triple win in that sense. And so I think going forward, that is one. But also, maybe if I could just highlight one more point,
Okay.
is that with this active aging, you will need spaces, you will need places and opportunities, and for these programs to run.
That's right.
And many a times, you need community, like like for example, void decks or some of these at public housing space, and there will be sounds, there will be music. First of all, we need to find these spaces, but also I think the neighboring residents will also need to be a bit more understanding, and
Oh.
that there would be some of these sound volumes that will be around, and will need their understanding to in order to support such an initiative. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So housing, the topic of housing also featured in a big way, during the NDR. Saktiandi, National Development Minister Desmond Lee also announced a $14,000 income ceiling for families and singles to buy plus flats on the resale market. So how far will the new measures help in keeping public housing affordable? After all, demand for housing is rising and market forces are challenging to contain.
Yeah, housing is indeed a very significant portion of PM speech. So I think affordability, in some sense, I think PM mentioned you can't lower the price of the flats to the extent because of the lottery effect. It actually enhances the lottery effect. And so equity and being fair is actually affected in that sense. But if you keep the price too high, you will make affordability a big issue for most people, including young families who wants to buy flats as well.
That's right.
People are talking about young couples feeling that they may have issues being able to buy their flats going forward as well. So, for example, in Toa-Payoh, don't know whether if we are in the plus or prime sort of a category. If residents who want to buy these flats in Toa-Payoh, for example, in the future, if it's under the plus, it actually allows greater possibilities because there would be enhanced subsidies. But of course, the sort of issues that the announcements that just came out in terms of the subsidies have to be paid back, and a minimum occupation period and things like that. So I think that the main aim is actually from what the housing policy is to make sure that it's affordable. Secondly, is to make it inclusive, social mix, and of course those issues actually matter quite a bit as well. So there are those two issues. And then there's, of course, the issue about making sure it's fair as well. Like I mentioned, don't want to have that lottery effect impacting as well. So affordability, I think, will be impacted because I think the 14,000 ceiling will actually affect it as well. So it limits those that want to buy those plus or prime flats going forward as well. But like Minister Lee mentioned, we already have a stock of those older flats that are in existence that people can actually still buy. So actually, there will be impact on price for sure because of the sort of limits to the market purchases going forward. But I think we need to assess going forward to see whether there are any future tweaks or not. And also it allows some flexibility because I'm sure in the future we might, Ling and me might get appeals to see whether we can. There are residents who want to appeal whether some MOP might be short by about a few months. So residents might come to us to appeal. So it allows for flexibility rather than just simply affecting prices directly.
Okay, we're running out of time here, so let's wrap things up. What is one key message you hope Singaporeans can take away from PM's National Day rally? And what will you personally be working on with your residents in the coming months? Let's start with you, Saktiandi.
I personally will still continue to work in terms of the cost of living issues that residents face because I have demographics, citizens of quite older demographics in Toa-Payoh, but also I'm concerned about retirement adequacy still. So I hope there'll be further enhancements other than some of those that PM has already announced going forward as well. And of course, the third point is in terms of aging facilities, like what Ling mentioned, I would like to possibly push for more enhanced facilities to allow greater mobility for my seniors in Toa-Payoh, and not just seniors, but those above 50 or 60, which may have mobility issues. So some of the things that PM have announced and further enhancements going forward as well.
Okay, and yourself, Ling?
Well, I think this year's NDR, squarely tackles the key issues top of mind for people. In terms of aging, I think it's quite clear that whether it's from infrastructure to the social, to financial, to even employment on this front, that the government is actively intervening to give support. And also the government is very willing to take bold moves to rethink frameworks and policies that is needed to, bring Singapore forward. So I think all in all, this NDR is focused, and I think it's also very close, staying very close to the pulse on the ground, knowing what people want or are concerned about, and making the necessary changes to support it. So I'm very happy to this. And likewise, like Saktiandi, I think cost of living will continue to be an issue that we will continue to work with residents on, but also to unpack all of these that are, delivered in NDR. I think the coming months would be a lot of communication and explanation that will have to be done.
Thank you so much to the both of you for sharing your views and perspectives and for your time today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for having us.
We've been speaking with Saktiandi Supaat, MP for Bishan Toa-Payoh GRC, and Ling, MP for MacPherson SMC. Stay with Money FM 89.3.
Money FM 89.3.